Back in October of 2019, which feels so long ago, I reviewed Batman and Dracula Red Rain, released in 1991. It's one of the more entertaining and memorable Elseworld stories DC has ever published. It centers around Batman taking on a family of vampires being led by Count Dracula himself, who have been targeting the poor and homeless in Gotham City. Bruce Wayne gets bitten by a rogue vampire named Tanya, a former member of Dracula's brood, who helps him stop the centuries-old creature. Bruce finds himself slowly turning into a vampire throughout the story, but manages to maintain a sliver of his humanity. That is until the final battle against Dracula, when he grows enormous wings and impales the Vampire King on a utility pole made from a dead oak tree. Bruce is bitten in the neck during the fight and is drained of the last of his blood. He bleeds out and dies, but at the end of the story, Alfred is seen entering a hidden crypt. Bruce Wayne may be dead, but Batman will live on forever, wielding the powers of a vampire. Red Rain would be the first in a trilogy of stories set within the same Batman Dracula universe. It was followed by Bloodstorm in 1994, the topic of today's video, and then Crimson Mist in 1998. After all this time, I will finally be reviewing the second installment in this trilogy, Bloodstorm, and my intention is to review the final one, Crimson Mist, next Halloween. The reason I am not doing it this year is because there is another Batman storyline I want to look at instead, and I don't want to oversaturate the topics with just one superhero. So Bloodstorm, let's get into it. It was written by Doug Mensch with art by Kelly Jones, the duo that would actually bring all three entries in the Batman and Dracula trilogy to life. After killing Dracula at the end of Red Rain, whatever piece of humanity Batman had left was now gone. Bruce Wayne was dead, and only Batman the vampire remained. And this is something made very apparent throughout this storyline, as Batman is never seen without his costume on. Apart from his chin, you never get a glimpse of his human figure, unlike in Red Rain. This comic completely embraces the supernatural aspect of Batman, because that's all he is at this point, a supernatural force and a literal monster. Using the superhuman strength, speed, and immortality granted to him by his vampirism, Batman has become an efficient crime-fighting machine. After stopping a couple of muggers, the darkest of nights discovers a dead woman in an alley's trash can. She has been drained of blood, with 3 sets of double puncture marks on her neck and torso. Though Batman had defeated Count Dracula, he realizes that a nest of his vampires have somehow survived and must be eliminated. In order to ensure that the woman does not return as a vampire, and to give her the peace of not knowing what she will surely become when she awakens, Batman stakes her through the heart and cuts off her head. Don't worry, she's already dead. Batman isn't breaking any rules. Yet that is. One notable Batman character we did not see in Red Rain was the Joker, and he makes his big debut within this universe, among the pages of Bloodstorm. The Clown Prince of Crime has sunk to a new low, has become even more twisted and sinister than he had ever been before, at least up to this point. The Joker searches out and finds the remaining vampires of Dracula's brood, hiding out in the sewers deep beneath Gotham City. Using holy water within his squirting flower and a crucifix to hold them back, he is able to convince the vampires to make him their new leader. Since the death of Dracula, they have existed without purpose, without direction. They need someone who is as dark as they are to guide them moving forward. Though hesitant at first, the vampires agree to the Joker's demands, so long as his leadership produces results, and it does. He completely overhauls their game plan. Rather than have them perform random attacks on citizens, mostly homeless, like they have been doing, he has them organize and target higher classes within the population to convert as many Gothamites as possible into new vampires. Once Gotham has been conquered, they will work their way into the next city, and so on and so forth. Joker's hordes grow in numbers and eventually attack and take down all of Gotham's most powerful crime families, which Batman claims were already vampires draining the life from the city. Nice. Joker's second-in-command, Creech, bites off one of the mobsters' faces and then spits it out, which is fucking nasty. Later, when the guy reappears as a vampire, we see that it's been stitched back on, which is pretty funny. Because sunlight is now fatal to him, Batman sleeps during the day inside of his crypt. At night, he preys upon the remaining vampires, staking them with specially designed daggers, hollowed out with silver, that he can throw like batarangs. Really cool. Every victim of the vampires he finds, he also stakes and beheads to keep their numbers low. Commissioner Gordon conceals Batman's actions from the rest of the police force by labeling them the work of a serial killer. Batman has become the darkest of angels that watches over the city. He's the only good vampire among all of the evil ones, but the question is, how long can that last? Just like in Red Rain, there is a vicious internal struggle going on within Batman. He has been drinking a red viscous fluid, a plasma substitute, that had been designed by Tanya over the course of hundreds of years. Unfortunately, it has been losing its effectiveness with each passing night. He tries to improve it, make it more potent, but nothing he does seems to work. Batman travels to the mausoleum in Arcadia Cemetery to kill the recently converted Cardona family. Even though he has been killing those that are already dead, Batman believes he will remain good as long as he doesn't succumb to his thirst for human blood. That's what separates him from the rest of Gotham's vampires. But after disposing of the rest of the family, the crime boss, Donato Cardona, eerily reminds Batman of what he has become, makes him realize that he has been enjoying all of the bloodshed deep down, and that sooner or later his thirst will overwhelm him. Knowing there is truth behind Cardona's words, Batman silences him with a stake dagger through the heart, and takes pride in cutting his head off with his axe. While walking home to her apartment, Selina Kyle is stalked by Creech, who has the power to turn himself into a werewolf. Selina gets bitten by him, but manages to escape death by jumping into the river. Vampires cannot cross running water apparently. I guess that's a thing. Has something to do with it being cleaner and more pure than water at a standstill. When Selina wakes up in her bed several nights later, it's a full moon, and she transforms into a werecat, a literal Catwoman, and seeks revenge against the monster who did this to her. Batman would encounter Catwoman, believing her to be an enemy at first, but she tells him that she does not wish to harm innocent people, and wants to help him put an end to the vampire plague. Batman meets with Ariane, his ally and occult advisor we first met in Red Rain. She gives him more information on vampires, explains how they take different forms in different countries, which is why some can shapeshift into animals other than bats. In Selina's case, turning into a werecat, she believes it may have something to do with the moon's influence, its pull on the Earth's tides, and maybe the water within the human body is influenced in a similar way, affecting hormones and adrenaline. Before departing, Batman asks if it's possible for him to resist human blood, with or without help, but the answer he receives from Ariane isn't the most reassuring. Batman physically and emotionally breaks down in his underground laboratory. Alfred brings him more serum, but it's nowhere near enough, and Batman orders him to leave in fear of something bad happening to him. Angered and grief-stricken over the death of Tanya, frustrated that he has been left alone to deal with all of this, he desperately calls out for another to save him, and Selina answers. She comforts him and helps him control the bloodlust with her compassion and affection. The love the two share for one another helps them cope with the monstrous sides of their psyches. Joker's vampire army continues to grow in number, too much for Batman and Catwoman to take on alone, so Batman asks Jim Gordon to assemble a team of vampire hunters to kill as many of the slumbering beasts as they can during the day to help even the odds. Alfred becomes one of these vampire hunters, and he and Gordon find themselves sick to their stomachs over what they are forced to do, breaking every known rule in the book, but their actions are necessary to rid Gotham of the vampires. They do what must be done, and lend Batman a helping hand, or stake. Eventually, thanks to their efforts, Joker's horde is reduced in number to only 15 vampires left in the city. Joker sets a trap for Batman inside of a church, and his minions lure him there. They surround Batman and Catwoman, firing at them with crossbows loaded with wooden stake arrows. Batman manages to kill them all, one by one, and Catwoman rips out Creature's intestines and heart, reveling in her victory over him. With all of his vampires defeated, Joker aims a crossbow at Batman and fires, but Catwoman jumps into the bolt's path, sacrificing her own heart for his. With his last hope gone, his long night's sole companion extinguished, Batman goes after the Joker one last time. Joker tries to slow Batman down with a room full of crosses and sprays him in the face with holy water, but neither are effective because Batman's heart is still pure. He has not yet tasted human blood, but the Darkest Night decides the Joker will be his first victim. Batman breaks his neck and finally has some of that deliciously flavorful forbidden fruit punch, giving Joker the last laugh. After feasting, Batman has a moment of realization of what he has done. The crosses start burning him, but he is still able to find enough strength to stake Joker's heart and behead him before fleeing. Alfred finds a note from Batman the following morning, telling him what had happened and that he had failed. Batman gives his loyal butler one final task. As he sleeps, Alfred and Gordon enter Batman's crypt and stake him through the heart, putting the final of Gotham's vampires to rest and giving Bruce Wayne the peace he so rightfully deserves. Batman Bloodstorm is a really fun story, especially to read around Halloween. I think when it comes to vampires, the Batman and Dracula trilogy are some of the best in the superhero genre, probably my favorite, and with Bloodstorm, I think it has the strongest narrative of the three, is the most compelling. You have all the crazy visuals and intense violence that all three stories provide, but this one has the most to say, I think, with its themes. Batman fighting his urge to drink human blood, his insatiable hunger, it sort of alludes to drug addiction in many ways. I think Doug Mench's writing, along with Kelly Jones's artwork, do a great job describing the physical and psychological pain Batman is going through. You almost feel it yourself while reading. When Batman finally gives into it, I think it's made very believable, and I love that his first and last victim is the Joker, his greatest enemy, which is quite powerful and fitting. I can see some people not enjoying some of the more lustful and sexual aspects to this story surrounding Catwoman, that all that stuff sort of gets in the way of the more interesting side of the story centering around Batman's thirst for blood, but I don't know, I kinda like it. I'm glad it's in the story. It adds a whole other layer to everything going on. Like I had mentioned earlier in the review, their love, their romance, keeps the two of them in control of their monsters. They need each other to survive, to maintain themselves. It's like any sort of problem you face in life. It's always better when you have help, someone else to lean on when times get tough. Watching my review of Red Rain again before making this video, I was kind of salty towards Kelly Jones's artwork. I found it to be awkward in areas, there were some inconsistencies to it, but honestly, I think I was a bit too harsh on it. There was a lot of charm to his style, it's very unique. I love his designs for the vampires, how he visualizes them, with their internal organs, their bowels, all hanging out, it's very memorable. The only real nitpick I have with this story that unfortunately carries over from Red Rain is that it still uses handwriting in the narration boxes with Batman's internal monologuing. It's sometimes difficult to make out certain words, and this is coming from someone who knows cursive, who grew up learning it in school, so don't come at me saying, oh, you're just a kid who doesn't know how to write it. Fuck off with that. Just like any form of writing, depending on the person's style, it can be hard to read, and this cursive gets messy in areas throughout the comic. That's all I'm saying. I'm sure if you read it and know cursive too, you would feel the same way I do. Let me know your thoughts on Batman Bloodstorm down in the comments section below. I want to thank you very much for watching this review, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like I had said, I won't be reviewing Crimson Mist until next Halloween, because I want to avoid oversaturating this year's topics with one particular superhero. There's another Batman storyline I want to look at instead later in the week, so stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications, and become a producer over on patreon.com if you can. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.